A Daring Proposition by Carl Watson. The sun blazed high in the Colorado sky as Amelia Foster stepped from the stagecoach, her boots landing in the dirt of Silver Springs for the first time. Sweat beaded at her temples beneath her practical bonnet as she surveyed the bustling mining town. At 24, she had left behind her life as a seamstress in Philadelphia, with nothing but a small trunk of possessions and the deed to her late uncle's general store. "Miss Foster." A tall man approached, removing his hat to reveal a shock of dark hair, threaded with silver at the temples. His weathered face spoke of years under the western sun, but his eyes were kind. "I'm Sheriff Daniel Montgomery. Your uncle asked me to look after you when you arrived." Amelia nodded, studying the man before her. Unlike the Eastern gentleman she knew, everything about him seemed carved from the rugged landscape itself, from his sun-darkened skin to his practical attire. "Thank you, Sheriff. I appreciate your assistance." "Call me Daniel," he said, taking her trunk effortlessly. "The store's just down the street. Been closed since your uncle passed. Town's been missing it something terrible." They walked side by side down the main street, Amelia taking in the wooden storefronts, the saloon with its swinging doors and the mix of miners, cowboys, and townspeople who paused to stare at the newcomer. "People are curious," Daniel explained. "News travels fast in Silver Springs. Everyone knows Edward Foster's niece from back east is coming to claim the store." "And what do they think of that?" Amelia asked, lifting her chin slightly. Daniel's mouth quirked up at one corner. "Some think you'll sell out and head back east within a month. Others are taking bets on how long before you marry one of the local boys desperate for a wife." "I have no intention of doing either," she replied firmly. "I came to run my uncle's business and make my own way." They stopped before a two-story building with large windows and a faded sign reading Foster's General Mercantile. Above the store was what appeared to be living quarters. "Here we are," Daniel said, setting down her trunk to unlock the door. "Your uncle left everything to you, including the apartment upstairs." The bell jingled as they entered. Dust motes danced in the sunbeams cutting through the windows, illuminating shelves half empty of goods. The scent of leather, coffee, and aged wood filled the air. "It needs work," Amelia admitted, running her finger along a dusty counter. "Town needs this store," Daniel said, watching her carefully. "Nearest one's in Riverdale, nearly 20 miles away." Amelia walked the perimeter, assessing the space with a practiced eye. "I'll need more store goods. Place orders, clean everything." "I can help," Daniel offered, then seemed surprised by his own words. "That is, I know some reliable folks who can assist. Mrs. Wilson from the boarding house is a hard worker, and the Jennings boys can help with any heavy lifting." "Thank you," Amelia said, truly grateful. "I'd welcome the assistance." Her gaze fell on a leather-bound ledger on the counter. "I should look through my uncle's books, see what condition the business is in." Daniel nodded. "I'll bring your trunk upstairs, then leave you to get settled. I live just behind the jailhouse if you need anything." He hesitated. "Town council meets tomorrow evening at the schoolhouse. Might be good for you to introduce yourself, meet some folks." "I'll consider it," she replied. After showing her the apartment, a simple but comfortable space with a small kitchen, bedroom, and sitting area, Daniel tipped his hat and left. Amelia stood alone in her new home, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the western town filtering through the open window. She was far from Philadelphia, from everything familiar. But as she looked around at the store that was now hers, she felt a sense of possibility she'd never experienced before. Sheriff Daniel Montgomery couldn't explain why he'd offered to help the newcomer so readily. Something about Amelia Foster's determined stance and clear eyes had caught his attention immediately. She wasn't what he'd expected, not some delicate eastern flower who'd wither in the Colorado sun, but a woman with purpose. He sat at his desk in the jailhouse, attempting to focus on wanted posters rather than thoughts of Miss Foster. At 38, he'd long since resigned himself to bachelorhood. The demands of keeping order in a mining town left little time for courting, and most eligible women either married young or wouldn't consider a man with such a dangerous profession. "You met her yet?" Deputy Jim Collins asked, interrupting his thoughts as he entered with 2 cups of coffee. "Miss Foster? Just helped her get settled at the store," Daniel replied, accepting the coffee. "Pretty thing, ain't she?" Jim grinned. "Half the unmarried men in town are already planning to court her. Thompson at the bank was talking about bringing her flowers tomorrow. Daniel frowned. She only just arrived. Give her time to breathe before the vultures circle. Jim raised an eyebrow. That's not like you to get protective over newcomers. Usually you're telling me to let folks handle their own affairs. She's on her own, taking over a struggling business. Doesn't need distractions, Daniel muttered, then changed the subject. Any word on those cattle rustlers from the Carson Ranch? Amelia woke early the next morning, determined to assess what needed to be done. After a simple breakfast, she swept the store floor, dusted the shelves, and began a meticulous inventory of the remaining stock. By midday, she had filled several pages with notes and calculations. The bell above the door jingled, startling her. Sheriff Montgomery stood in the doorway, hat in hand. "Didn't mean to interrupt your work," he said. "Brought you some lunch from the hotel restaurant? Thought you might be too busy to stop." Amelia realized she was indeed hungry. "That's very thoughtful, Sheriff." "Daniel," he reminded her, setting down a cloth-wrapped bundle on the counter. "How's the inventory coming?" "Better than I expected," she admitted. Uncle Edward kept good records. The business was profitable until his health began failing last year. Daniel nodded. He was a good man. Fair with prices, helped folks when times were hard. Amelia unwrapped the bundle to find fresh bread, cheese, and sliced ham. "Will you join me? There's plenty here." He hesitated, then pulled up a stool across the counter from her. They ate in comfortable silence for a moment. "What brought you to Silver Springs?" Amelia asked finally. "You don't strike me as a man who was born here." A shadow crossed his face. "War. After Gettysburg, I couldn't go back to farming in Ohio. Needed open spaces, less reminders." He shifted uncomfortably. "Came west in '65. Worked as a ranch hand, then deputy in Riverdale before taking the sheriff position here 6 years ago." "The war changed many things," Amelia said softly. "My fiancé never returned from Antietam." Daniel's eyes met hers with newfound understanding. "I'm sorry." "It was long ago now," she said, straightening her shoulders. "Life continues." "That it does," he agreed. "Town council meeting is at 7 tonight, if you're still considering it." "I'll be there," Amelia decided. Better to meet everyone at once than have them trickle in one by one to satisfy their curiosity. Daniel smiled, a genuine expression that transformed his serious face. "Smart thinking, Miss Foster." "Amelia," she corrected. "If I'm to call you Daniel, it's only fair." The schoolhouse was filled to capacity that evening, with more townspeople attending the council meeting than had in months. Everyone wanted to see the newcomer. Amelia felt their eyes upon her as she took a seat near the back, wearing her best navy dress with a simple cameo at her throat. She nodded politely to those who greeted her, including Mrs. Wilson from the boarding house and Mr. Thompson from the bank, who had indeed brought flowers to the store that afternoon. Daniel sat at the front with the 5 council members, his tall frame easily distinguishable. Occasionally, his gaze would find hers in the crowd, offering silent reassurance. Mayor Holloway, a rotund man with an impressive mustache, called the meeting to order. After discussing road repairs and water rights, he finally addressed what everyone was waiting for. "As most of you know, we have a new resident in Silver Springs. Miss Foster has come to take over her late uncle's general store. Miss Foster, would you care to introduce yourself?" Amelia stood, smoothing her skirts. "Thank you, Mayor Holloway. I'm Amelia Foster from Philadelphia. My Uncle Edward was my father's brother, and I was honored when he left his business to me. I intend to reopen the store within the week, fully stocked to serve the community's needs." She paused, scanning the faces watching her. "I welcome your suggestions on what items would be most useful to carry." She answered several questions about her plans for the store, her experience as a seamstress, and whether she might offer millinery services as well. She would. Throughout the exchange, she noticed Daniel watching her with something like admiration. After the meeting, several townspeople approached to introduce themselves. Mrs. Jenkins, the midwife, offered friendship. Mr. Sullivan, who owned the livery, promised fair prices for deliveries. Mrs. Wilson invited her to Sunday services. "You handled that well," Daniel said when the crowd finally thinned. "Made a good impression." "Thank you for suggesting I come," Amelia replied. "It was helpful to meet everyone at once." "May I walk you back to the store?" he offered. The night was clear, stars brilliant in the vast Colorado sky as they strolled down the main street. Their conversation flowed easily, discussing the townspeople and their various personalities. Mr. Thompson seems quite interested in making your acquaintance, Daniel observed, a strange tension in his voice. Yes, he made that clear with his elaborate bouquet and invitation to dinner, Amelia replied. I declined, of course. I have far too much work to do before the store opens. Was it her imagination, or did the sheriff's shoulders relax slightly? Miss Foster, Amelia, Daniel began as they reached the store, I was wondering if... Sheriff. Deputy Collins came running up the street. Fight broke out at the Silver Dollar. Jenkins pulled a knife on Rodriguez over a card game. Daniel's expression hardened instantly. I'll be right there. He turned back to Amelia. I'm sorry, duty calls. Of course, she said, trying to hide her disappointment. Good night, Sheriff. We'll continue our conversation another time, he promised before hurrying away. The next week passed in a flurry of activity. Amelia threw herself into preparing the store, cleaning every corner, reorganizing the shelves, and placing orders with suppliers in Denver. To her surprise, Daniel stopped by nearly every day, sometimes bringing lunch, other times rolling up his sleeves to help move heavy furniture or repair a broken shelf. They fell into an easy rhythm of conversation, discovering shared interests in literature and music. He'd had more formal education than most Western lawmen, having attended 2 years of college before the war interrupted his studies. Amelia found herself looking forward to his visits, her pulse quickening at the sound of the bell when he entered. The store reopened on a sunny Tuesday to great success. Townspeople streamed in all day, purchasing needed supplies and welcoming her to the community. By closing time, Amelia was exhausted but elated. She was locking the front door when Daniel approached, dressed not in his usual work clothes but in a clean shirt and vest. Congratulations on your first day, he said, smiling. Town's been buzzing about how well you've stocked the place. Thank you, she replied, noticing how the evening light softened his weathered features. I couldn't have done it without your help. I was wondering if you might join me for dinner at the hotel restaurant, he said, the words coming out in a rush, to celebrate your successful opening. Amelia felt warmth spread through her chest. I'd like that very much. The hotel restaurant was the finest establishment in Silver Springs, with white tablecloths and a French chef, lured from Denver by the town's mining prosperity. Heads turned as the sheriff escorted the new shopkeeper to a corner table. People will talk, Amelia murmured, noticing the curious glances. Let them, Daniel replied with a shrug. Small towns run on gossip. Gives folks something to do besides mining and ranching. Over roast beef and potatoes, they spoke of their pasts, her childhood in Philadelphia as a merchant's daughter, his upbringing on an Ohio farm. They avoided the painful topics of war and lost loved ones, focusing instead on their journeys west and the lives they built. I never planned to stay in Silver Springs this long, Daniel admitted. Thought I'd move on after a year or two, maybe to California. What made you stay? She asked. He considered the question. Found I was needed here. Came to care about the place, the people. His eyes met hers. Sometimes life has different plans than we do. Indeed, Amelia agreed softly. I never imagined I'd own a store in Colorado, yet here I am. Are you happy with the change? He asked, studying her face. I am, she realized aloud. In Philadelphia, I was always Edward Foster's niece or Thomas Williams' fiancée. Here, I'm simply Amelia, making my own way. You're far more than simply Amelia, Daniel said, his voice dropping lower. You're the most remarkable woman I've met in years. The air between them changed, charged with unspoken feelings. Amelia felt color rise to her cheeks under his intense gaze. Daniel, she began, unsure what to say. The moment was broken by the arrival of the waiter with coffee and apple pie. The conversation shifted to lighter topics, but something had changed. A door had opened between them. As they walked back to the store under a canopy of stars, Daniel offered his arm. Amelia took it, feeling the solid strength of him beside her. At her door, they hesitated. Thank you for dinner, she said. It was lovely. Amelia, Daniel said, taking off his hat and holding it nervously. I know you've only been here a short while and I don't want to rush you, but I find myself thinking about you even when I should be focusing on my duties. Her breath caught. Is that so? It is, he confirmed. I'd like to court you properly, if you'd allow it. The directness of his request was refreshing after the elaborate social rituals of the East. I would like that very much, she answered honestly. His smile was brilliant in the moonlight. Slowly, giving her time to withdraw if she wished, he leaned forward and placed a gentle kiss on her cheek. "Good night, Amelia," he whispered. "Good night, Daniel," she replied, her skin tingling where his lips had touched. Spring turned to summer, and Daniel's courtship continued with steady determination. They attended church together on Sundays, dined at the hotel restaurant once a week, and took afternoon rides in his buggy to explore the stunning mountain landscape surrounding Silver Springs. Amelia's store thrived under her management. She expanded the inventory to include fabrics and notions, using her seamstress skills to offer simple alterations and mending. The townspeople had accepted her completely, no longer viewing her as an outsider but as an essential part of their community. One warm evening in July, Daniel took her to his favorite spot, a meadow overlooking the valley, where wildflowers grew in profusion and the mountains stood like sentinels against the sky. "I come here to think," he explained as he spread a blanket over the grass, "when decisions weigh heavily or the noise of town becomes too much." They sat side by side, watching the sunset paint the mountains in hues of crimson and purple. Birds called their evening songs, and a gentle breeze carried the scent of pine and flowers. "I received a letter from my sister in Philadelphia," Amelia said after a comfortable silence. "She asks when I'm coming home." Daniel tensed beside her. "And what did you tell her?" Amelia turned to face him. "I said that I am home. Silver Springs is my home now." The relief on his face was palpable. "I've been afraid you'd decide the West isn't for you after all." "This place has become part of me," she admitted. "The store, the people, you." Daniel took her hand in his larger one. "When I first saw you step down from that stagecoach, something told me my life was about to change. I tried to ignore it, told myself you were just another newcomer who'd probably leave. But I didn't leave," she said softly. "No, you didn't. You bloomed here, made a place for yourself." His thumb traced circles on her palm. "I love you, Amelia Foster. These past months have been the happiest of my life." Joy welled up within her. "I love you too, Daniel. I never expected to find love again, especially not here." He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small wooden box. "I've been carrying this for weeks, waiting for the right moment." Opening it, he revealed a simple gold band with a small diamond. "It belonged to my mother. Would you do me the honor of becoming my wife?" Tears filled Amelia's eyes as she looked from the ring to his hopeful face. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, I will marry you." Daniel slipped the ring onto her finger, then drew her into a tender kiss that spoke of promises and future joys. When they parted, he rested his forehead against hers. "I know being a sheriff's wife won't always be easy," he said. "There will be late nights, dangers." "I know," she interrupted. "I choose you, Daniel, risks and all. We'll face whatever comes together." As dusk settled over the meadow, they made plans for their future. A simple wedding in the town church, living above the store until they could build a proper home, perhaps children someday. The details mattered less than the certainty that they had found in each other what neither had expected to discover in Silver Springs: a second chance at love. The wedding took place in October, when the aspens had turned brilliant yellow against the evergreens. The entire town attended, filling the small church to capacity. Amelia wore a dress of ivory silk she had sewn herself, with Miss Wilson's lace veil completing her ensemble. Deputy Collins stood as Daniel's best man, while Mrs. Jenkins served as Amelia's matron of honor. Mayor Holloway performed the ceremony, beaming with pride as if he'd personally arranged the match. "Never seen the sheriff smile so much," one miner whispered to another during the ceremony. "Never seen Miss Foster, Mrs. Montgomery now, look so happy," came the reply. When Daniel kissed his bride at the altar, cheers erupted through the church. Silver Springs celebrated late into the night, with dancing in the street and toasts to the couple, who had found each other against all odds. Later, when they were finally alone in their apartment above the store, soon to be renovated into a larger living space, Amelia stood by the window looking out at the town that had become her home. "Any regrets?" Daniel asked, coming to stand behind her and wrapping his arms around her waist. "Not one," she replied, leaning back against his solid chest. "Every step I've taken led me here, to you." "To think," he mused, pressing a kiss to her hair, "if your uncle hadn't left you that store, we might never have met." Amelia turned in his arms to face him. Perhaps it was fate. Perhaps, he agreed, lowering his mouth to hers, or perhaps it was simply a daring proposition, taking a chance on a new life, in a new place. As the stars appeared above Silver Springs, the sheriff and his bride began their life together, bound by love that had bloomed unexpectedly in the Colorado wilderness. Proof that second chances come in the most surprising forms, and that home is wherever the heart finds its match.